So I haven't been doing much that I felt was worthy of making a video on. I've been doing tons of head scratching, looking for parts that I put away 2 years ago, and wiring. So I'll just show you, give you a little tour of what I've done so far and what I've still got to do. Basically what it is this truck was, and it's an 89, and it's the second year, I guess, that fuel injection was available on Dodge trucks. So it wasn't really something that I was going to be able to modify and adapt to work with the slightly hopped up Magnum engine that I got put in there now. So I'll show you what I did and show you what I still got to do. Sounds like something that's interesting to you? Stick around. So I got a bank of relays here, all the different things that I'm using them for, and I replaced all my fusible links with fuses, both here and obviously they'll still feed back to where the original fuse box is inside the truck. If you look, this still all looks like a rat's nest because, well, I'm still not done, but what I started trying to do was just wrap it up in harnesses. And I had a nice little harness going across the back of the engine there, and I ended up tearing it all apart. And if you look even here, like this is for the oil pressure sending unit, temperature sending unit, and things like that. I had that all wrapped up nice, and I ended up unwrapping most of it. So that's one thing. If I had to do it over again, and for the rest of the wiring that I've got to do, I will definitely run my wires. I tie them up in looms with tie wraps like this, and you know what, tie wraps are cheap. Clip them and replace them as much as you need to, but that's my big thing, is just run them more or less loose where you need them, and wait until you're done, and probably proved out all your wiring and you know everything's going to work before you start wrapping anything up and trying to make it look nice. Now, some of the stuff I did do that I wrapped up ahead of time was just like, this is a factory taillight harness, and it just comes down from the two bulb sockets and plugs into the main harness. It went back together just exactly as it came apart. So basically all I did is I peeled off the old sheathing, checked and made sure there was no broken wires or anything like that, and wrapped it up and put it back in like that. Basically everything from the firewall back is all just as it came from the factory, other than a couple things that I removed. I decided that I wasn't going to bother with the rear anti-lock brakes, and I guess that's pretty much the only thing that I ended up removing from this rear harness. It actually came together pretty sweet and smooth. Another thing, this is certainly not all of them, but I ended up with a bunch of spare wires coming through because there was a bunch that went back and forth between the factory computer that was hid behind the battery and the gauges and whatnot inside the truck. I'm replacing all that with aftermarket gauges, so I will be using as many of these wires as I can and continue to use them as they pass through the factory bulkhead. As far as I can see, there's going to be way more wires here than I'm actually going to need for what I'm doing. So it's gonna work out real good, and it's gonna end up being a real nice clean installation. And over here is, I actually just, to clean things up and make it a little neater, I ran a -4AN line that's actually intended to be run inside the cab for a mechanical gauge. I ran it over here to a little manifold, and I put the sending unit for my electric oil pressure gauge and the pressure switch that's there for my for my fuel pump and just put them on a little manifold and mounted them on the fender. It's a heck of a lot nicer. I originally tried to mount them on the engine, but there was just no room. The distributor's back there on this engine. It was just going to be a pain in the butt. So I'm actually really happy with the way it turned out, being just moved over onto the fender like this. So there's a little update, a little bit of rambling about what I've been doing. I actually really enjoy the wiring. I was kind of stressed out about it, and it was this mountain of mess, spaghetti stuff. But you know what? I've actually got it to the point where probably one day this week I'm gonna fire up and run this truck. The fuel pump control system is done. The ignition, which basically I just mimicked the ignition, the factory Mopar electronic ignition, the same thing as what's on my Duster. That's what I put into this truck, and it's going to work out really well. So anyway, there's a bit of an update. If you're interested in what happens next, maybe give me a subscribe, and I'll see you soon.